Darkness, be that fence around me. Pull me to your edges and let me linger in your presence. Absence, be that fence around me. Pull me to your edges and let me linger in your presence. Stillness, be that fence around me. Pull me to your edges and let me linger in your presence. Silence. Good afternoon. Is it still morning? I'm used to being, listen. I'm usually used to speaking at communities that the sermon wouldn't get started until the afternoon. Thank you all for being here. How you be? Good, good. All right. Can I tell you a little bit of what's going on for me this week? Yeah? Okay. So earlier this week, I was invited by a ministerial friend and mentor of mine to fill in for them. This week, they found themselves in a bit of a bind, and they hold a small gathering for their spiritual community that they hoped that I could step into. They asked me to come up with a talk. I chose the talk title, All Things Are Lessons, which is an excerpt from A Course in Miracles, Lesson 193. All things are lessons that God would have us learn. I won't go into the full spread of that service, but the meat and bones of what I shared rest in this idea that God, life, love, presence, power, however you understand or name that thing, the generating, the organizing, and the delivering intelligence that's back of all things, you can call it Bob if you'd like, has only one will: to bring us back into realization of the eternal, whole, limitless, sinless, forever safe nature within us all and in all creation. And this lesson that it would have us learn is that we are all relational, and that all of life experience is a classroom designed to teach only that remembrance. The opening line in A Course in Miracles states it as follows: "This is a course in miracles. It is a required course. Only the time that you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It aims, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. Summed up, nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God." Within the A Course in Miracles text, they understand miracles as rather a shift in perception and a correction of perception. And then this idea of forgiveness as one's process towards that correction. So, at the end of my talk, I invited the group to reflect. A gentleman raised his hands and sincerely, though perhaps with a little bit of charge, asked, "What about the woman that's been raped?" Others chimed in. There was a lot of back and forth. Someone brought up the horrors of chattel slavery. Someone else about the death of a child. Worst case scenarios were suddenly everywhere. Curiosity gave way to gotchas. The energy escalated. Things went south very, very fast. The next day, I called one of my elders. I go, "What do I do? How do I repair?" And she said simply, "Give it space." 2 days later, that same gentleman emailed apologizing. saying, despite what had gone on, he had really enjoyed the service. And of course, he included a link about the transatlantic slave trade. I smiled. All things are lessons. There's an aphorism: if it hurts, something wants to be learned. If it repeats, something remains unlearned. If it brings peace, something real has been remembered. My faith journey has been a winding and unpredictable one in pursuit of that peace. I don't know much of anything, but I do maintain this. Yes, all things are indeed lessons that God, however you understand that thing, would have us learn about our interconnectedness, our relationship, our unblemished essence behind all things. So that brings me to grace, which is the title of my talk. I get there eventually, trust me. I love this idea of grace so much that I literally have it tattooed across my body. Grace, the unearned opportunity, this gift to start again, to see anew, to be transformed, a divine gift, and a timely topic on this second Sunday of Advent. This recognition that the journey of Mary and Joseph, this path, the preparing the way for this child and the second coming, preparation, and this Christ peace that transforms all seeming conflict and division. A path, a preparation, a peace. Back in 2016 or thereabouts, I was a teacher. I taught in community colleges here in the city in social work and child and youth care. And by night, I did DEI, corporate DEI work. I began noticing a lot of cracks in our ability to relate. Cracks that by 2020 became all-out chasms. Everybody was triggered. Everyone was challenging some status quo. Boardrooms and classrooms alike felt like battlegrounds. And so, in the shower one morning, I asked whatever that thing is to give me a sign. What is needed at this time? I want to reference quickly that story of Jerome in the words. My second name is Jerome. And I love that story. So I asked what is needed. And the download that came to me at that time was this idea of grace. But grace not as some abstract thing, but as a practice. This wholly human practice. Grace is the space that we give ourselves and by extension each other. To be human, fully human, and all of what that means. The missteps, the mistakes, the misspeaks, and the messy. And in the space that's created, the trust that we can start again. So from this, I developed the grace principle, a protocol broken down into sort of 5 mini practices. Can I share them with you? Okay. So the first was this idea of good faith and good intent. That I enter into each of my engagements in good faith. Not with gotchas, not seeing the other as my enemy, but truly showing up in good faith. And then holding in advance the person or persons opposite me in good intention. Believing in advance that the good that I hold and that I see in myself, I see in you too, unless proven otherwise. The next was responsibility, or the ability to respond. We live in a time where there's a lot of fingers pointing out, holding people accountable. What I'm inviting in is this idea of being responsible, which is a thumb pointing back at yourself. Your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, all that's under your provision is yours to manage. Acceptance. accepting what is as it is, not fighting against reality, and accepting that sometimes the what is going to come up against yours. There's going to be friction. And that friction doesn't mean annihilation, that I can and that I will survive. Now, what I found is that we often understand this in the macro, right? All of us can sort of fathom that there are 8 billion people on this planet, and likely they are not like me. But when we are in our micro and our communal, all of that awareness goes away, and we look on each other and we expect that the other show up like us. And so we invite in this idea that there's difference, and that difference is okay. The next is curiosity, and particularly the commitment to curiosity. I also like to think of this as sort of the anti-offense principle. It's very difficult to be both offended and curious at the same time. I'm sure that there are many of us who could manage it, but it would take a lot of work. Curiosity says that I don't know what it is that I see. And so I stay in a posture of curiosity. I wonder what that's about. Tell me more. Help me to understand. And it also presumes that there is something on the other side that knows something that perhaps I don't know. And then lastly, but not least of which, is my favorite, endurance, or what I call the stick-with-ability principle, okay? For a long time, I really struggled with using this as one of the principles. For a time, I would use engagement. I felt like that was more socially acceptable. To say engaged felt sort of lighter. When you say endure, it feels like endure, right? But I've been brought back to the value of endurance, because endurance does mean steadfastness, long-suffering, managing in the midst of difficulty, that it isn't always, engagements are not always light. And so, for those who don't like the word endurance, perhaps patience. And so, I taught on that for a while, and I spoke on that, and I did all this stuff. And I'm supposed to be writing a book. Tell me where that's at right now, my Lord. But what I was also finding as time has gone on is that a lot of the emphasis on this framework on the outside was only a half measure. As a therapist and someone who does this work, I recognize that a lot of the work that we say we see and need to manage out there is actually work that actually begins here. We must first grant ourselves grace. Everything out there is in relationship to us. There is only ever one thing going on. And so, whatever work we begin, we must begin here. Seeing myself as good. Not perfect, but good. That back of this, in all of my mess, there's this unblemished good. I use the example sometimes, and in one of my presentations, I brought up a whole big old mirror. And the mirror was marred with all of this muck. And like the mirror, I think of ourselves. That you can accumulate a whole bunch of muck. But with a good enough Windex, back of all of that is this unchanging, untarnished good. Acknowledging my responsibility in my life, that I'm an agent in the universe. Now, I'm not the only agent in the universe, and I'm not the supreme agent of the universe, but I am an agent in my universe. And rather than trying to rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic, I focus my energies on what is mine to control. We do this with our clients in our work. It's up to us to do it with ourselves in our work. Accepting also starts with me. One of the first things I have to accept is that sometimes, I'm a divided house. That I'm full of contradictions and complications. And often there's a lot of conflict here too. And so it's no shock that I see out in the world all the things that I know, if I'm quiet enough, exist also in me. But I accept that all of those seeming differences, all of those seeming contradictions are all housed in one perfect and imperfect whole, me. And then being curious with myself, most of all. I don't know. Right now my heart is beating and my muscles are twitching so I can stand here and talk to you. I don't know nothing about nothing that keeps me going. All of the things that I think are me are governed by something that sometimes I'm not even aware of. So I should continually be in a state of curiosity. But isn't this interesting that I can lift my hand, oh my word? And isn't this interesting, this feeling or these feelings, these sometimes divergent feelings, these sometimes conflicted feelings, these sometimes challenging feelings in me? And so it's not a shock then if I see it in you. There is nothing foreign to someone who is in relationship with all things. There is nothing that can be foreign outside there for someone who is aware of their relationship to all things. And finally, and again, most importantly, because none of the other principles can be done with any effect without the last, endurance. Every day I see clients who struggle to stick with themselves, who struggle to see themselves as worth holding on to. And so this idea of, regardless of your failings along the way, holding close to you, knowing that on the other side of it all, regardless of the mar and the muck, is an unblemished, untarnished, perfect good. I'm not disposable. I am repairable. I have value. And if I can hold that idea long enough, I can extend it to others too. Y'all are still with me? Okay. Communities of care. Real communities of care require that we create space. You can't have a community of care and there ain't no space. Space for confusion, space for conflict, space for contradiction, space for the messy, and space for all of the repair. We can disagree and stay in relationship. Harm must be discerned, of course, but discomfort does not equate danger. Uncomfortable does not mean unsafe. Offended does not mean annihilated. Different does not mean dangerous. If community is built entirely around this ethic of justice but excludes grace, then justice just becomes about us. And our communities, they crumble. Far too many are trying to dictate peace and love through a lot of bullying, instead of cultivating the conditions where peace and love can be seen. Practice does not create new. It just removes the things that block the way to seeing that the good, or our God, is there already. Now, this does not deny pain, okay? Nor does it minimize real violence. It is not naive. But even pain is information. James Baldwin says, the pain that signals a toothache is the pain that saves your life. Reverend Iyanla Vanzant says, pain is really pay attention inward now. We put ourselves into a posture through grace towards possibility. This idea that you can begin again. And that truly is what the birth of Jesus, whom they call the Christ, represents, right? This fresh start, this redemption through renewed consciousness, transformation by grace, unearned, unasked for, freedoms from the barriers that we build against love. And so, I started with this conversation about a path, a preparation, a peace, and then I've offered you a practice. And so I'm going to return to this teaching from A Course in Miracles, the same one that got me in trouble last week. Hopefully not with you all. Course in Miracles, lesson 193 states, these are the lessons, rather, that God would have you learn. Each lesson has a central thought, the same in all of them. The form alone is changed with different circumstances and events, with different characters and different themes, apparent but not real. They are the same in fundamental content. It is this: forgive, and you will see things differently. No one can hide forever from a truth so very obvious that it appears in countless forms, and yet is recognized as easily in all of them, if one but wants to see the simple lesson there. Again, forgive, and you will see things differently. These are the words that the Holy Spirit speaks. In all your tribulations, all of your pain, all suffering, regardless of its form, these are the words which temptation ends and guilt abandoned is revered no more. These are the words which end the dream of sin and rid the mind of fear. These are the words by which salvation comes to all the world. I'm going to close out with just what we call a spiritual mind treatment or an affirmative prayer. Is that okay? And if you feel comfortable, you can lower your gaze. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, or you can just stare at me. That's all okay. But in the New Thought community, we sort of believe that there's only one consciousness. And so when we pray, we never have to beg or beseech for anything, because all is already available to us. It's about clearing the way to see what already is there. And so prayer is really an affirmation, a declaration of what you already know to be true. You're not asking for something except for sight. And so I'm going to end on this with us. Okay? I know and hold true that there is an unsuppressible and irrepressible energy of life that is good. Always good, regardless of appearances. I choose to see that indwelling good, or Christ, in my neighbor, in the stranger, in those who challenge me, and most importantly, within myself. I leave room, that space for grace, for something greater than me, to do the transforming work, to heal my perception, to allow me to see what's already present all around. The pregnant pause, the space between each heartbeat, every thought, We are in space. And the universe abhors a vacuum. And every space will be filled. I invite in peace. I invite in love. I invite in joy. And I make the way for grace. And so it is.